Hello, beautiful ones. We're going to be joined by Aminata Maternal. We're having a conversation about the exponential growth that is catalyzed in motherhood. Often I hear women in business, women who are creating impact in the world. I often hear them complaining about motherhood, complaining about how the children get in the way of them getting what they want to get done. So we're going to dive into a deep conversation about. So just give us a second whilst she comes on. Hello, my love.
I don't know what is happening where the universe always have a plan, isn't it? And go on. So
Yes,
here we go.
yes, exactly. Here we go. Second time round. Morning,
Yes.
love.
Morning, morning.
Morning. All in order and time for us to have a smooth ride.
Okay, cool. Ready to go.
Ready to go. Well, let's dive right in. So for the audience, I'll just give them a bit of context of who you are, who I am, and why we're here.
Yes.
So Aminata and I met in 2014. We met at an accounting firm, which is a trusted family advisory firm that focuses on creating wealth. And Aminata had come in to get ready to do all of the background work that she needed to do to set up her foundation, which is now the Aminata Maternal Foundation. And when Aminata and I met, a week after that, I was made redundant. And I called her up immediately and I said, hey, sister, I have got 8 weeks. I've got money. I've got time. I've got energy. And I love your initiative. I love what you're here for. And I'd love to help you build and grow your not-for-profit. So here we are. Where are we? 10 years, 9 years later. And in that
Yeah.
time, you have contributed to saving 36,000
Yeah.
lives in Sierra Leone
Yes.
and raised $1.5 million in cash to reduce the infant mortality rate there, which is your home country.
Yes.
Not a small feat at all.
No, not a small feat. And I think when you just mentioned that it's not even the one for me, it's the 1.5 million that feels so small, where it doesn't feel small. It is small when you think about life itself. It's the lives, like the mother and the child, when you call that amount and to feel that that's what I'm part of. It's not even that. It's what the community is part of, the Australian community and people. So it's such a pure blessing. It really gets me choked up a lot of times.
It's a big one, that's a massive number, 36,000.
Yeah.
36,000 human beings. I
Yes.
mean, the population of Sierra Leone is the same as the population in New South Wales here
Mm-hmm.
in Australia.
Yes. Yes, it is the same. Yeah.
And the stats show that 1 out of 17 lives are lost in Sierra Leone, which is 500 times more than the lives that are lost here when mothers give birth.
Yes.
I mean, those are insane stats. Like, as human beings, when we get rational about things and we think 500 times more
Mm. Mm.
lives are lost
Yes.
just because of the mere state of the country.
Yes. Yeah, I think for me, most of the time when I say these statistics, and I know in history and still when organization or charity say the statistics, we're so immune to hear the statistics and people rush to helping. I think when I say it makes my heart disheartened because this is not something that should be happening. And when I compare it to Australia, I feel also disheartened because I don't like comparing anything to anything. So, but it's the only way people can see the injustice, what is happening. It's not that mother or baby should be dying in Australia. It's just to see that we have so much and what we can do. So I think for me, it's really, I always say when I speak, I always say, please don't take this statistic that I'm trying to scare you. I'm trying to give you hope that we could do something. We can be part of a change.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the reality of it. My son has just got back from Bali. He and his father went there for 9 days, and his father did what he always does when they travel to different countries. They don't do the tourist thing. They go into the way that the locals live. And and my son was shown poverty. You know, he was exposed to poverty for the first time in his life, and now he's come back to Australia. And it's not about comparing one existence to the other, as you say, but it's the reality, and it's showing us that we have so much abundance here, and there is so much safety, and there is so much health, that there is an overflow of energy and resources that can then be fueled into Africa. And I mean, you and I are both African women, and so of course this is, you know, something that is dear to our hearts. However, I might just get a little bit spiritual on this one, and talk about, I'd love to hear what your viewpoint on this is, but globally we refer to Mama Africa. You know, we refer to Africa as Mama Africa. And my belief is truly that that's where everything began. And so for me, and I'll hear from you in a second, but for me, this is about, like, if Mama Africa is in order, then the rest of the world is breathing beautifully. If Mama Africa is in distress, then there's this energetic distress that moves through the rest of the world. What are your views on this?
I absolutely believe that. And the reason why I believe that, you can see the chaos that we are in. And I know everybody say that when they speak, we all kind of quoting each other. But I think until the world get into just, and as history have proved it, we've all come from Africa. We're all Black, you know, we're all of that descent. And I think until we recognize that we are no better than anyone, and that whatever is ours, whatever you feel, because the West, what is the separation between the West and Africa? What is mine is mine. In Africa, what is mine is yours, you know? And that's where the Ubuntu come. When the Ubuntu come, I see you, I am, because we are, or you are. And we see each other too. That's what makes Africa so unique, despite all the issue that the West keep popping to point fingers on Africa, or probably the strategy they've laid on to raise money and see them as helpless. I think for myself, when I think of Mama Africa, or I think of the continent of Africa, I truly believe that the West knows we live how much we are. We live our life every single day, how we see life to be. But I think the other thing is that I've always been suspicious of. I've been in Australia for 23 years, is that the West know the power of Africa than even the Africans. Really, they do know that. But the heartbreaking part is, because of this injustice and this superiority, we need one to be down for one to be up. And that's what is crippling the world. That's what is crippling the world. But I truly believe that. I truly believe the West know the power of Africa than Africa themselves, because we are just living through life. We are just like going on each day, you know? And I think it's also the disadvantage for Africans, because we don't see that so much. It's not that we don't know it. We know it because we're living it, but we don't recognize that so much. So
yeah, because then they're so in it.
They're so in,
you know, everyday life we're so in it.
Yeah. So it's like when somebody says, "Oh, you're so joyful all the time," and you go like, "Why?" And you go like, "I can't put words to it. I can't put words to it." And somebody will ask you why, but you can't. It's like you don't have a recipe. You're just like, "I'm just living this life," you know. You can't really articulate it. Well, and then what happens?
Spirit, right?
Is a spirit. I think then what happened is, so the looting and everything that's happening, we're not mindful of it. We don't take advantage. We don't notice it. You know, and so that's where we are.
Because
where
it's
we are.
normalized.
Yes.
Normalized.
Yeah.
Yes. And we've normalized that here in Australia, we're living a good life, and that mothers are giving birth to babies, and that babies are being looked after, and mothers are being looked after. And we're actually moving into, you know, there's this huge revolution that is moving globally, but a lot is happening here in Australia around traditional birthing coming back into the world, where less women are going to hospitals, less women are getting their scans, more women are coming into a space of sovereignty and really owning the power of their bodies. And this is something that's been happening in Africa for ages. The
Yeah.
only difference is that all of the traditional births that are happening in Africa can't continue on because there's so much other unsafety around
Yes.
them. It's
Yeah.
much easier for a woman in Australia to give birth in a traditional way, not be in a hospital, not have the support because of the resources. So
Yes.
let's talk about the women, the traditional women in Africa. I mean, globally, we know that when women thrive, the whole entire world
Yeah.
thrives just because of who we are. Let's start at top level of what is your view of a woman in the world before we even drop into motherhood. What do
Yeah.
you believe the role of a woman is in the world?
Speaking for myself, as you know, I don't give advice. Speaking for myself, what I believe, I truly believe that we are a warrior. We are, in a sense, that the capacity of what we can intake, even when the chaos is happening, even when joy is happening. Um, and I feel like even when you go to the biblical, when Adam was created and God said he was alone, there was no woman there. We can disrupt and we can bring together, and we can bring peace. We can hold the world. We can hold family. We can hold love. We can hold chaos and mold it into peace. And I believe men know that. I believe men, more than anyone, also men know that because we birth. Oh my gosh, when I say this all the time, I just get a chill. We birth the men. So imagine that, that women birth. Because of women, because we came into this world, birth happened. Nothing existed without that. So if you think about it, really, nothing can ever exist without women. And I think, again, that sad part, and we know it instantly. We know it in ourselves. We feel it all the time when things are happening. Every woman that's probably in a crisis, in any kind of relationship or whatever chaos they are, whatever love they are, in depth we know it, but we were just trained to ignore it or to say that's a wrong feeling. So I think for the world, this is not a competition. This is not better than. This is nothing like that. I was raised by my father. I am who I am today because of him, but he would not have had me because without my mother. So it's nothing against. It's nothing for or against. It's that if we see the value of that, and we recognize that and respect that, then the harmonious life that we are to live despite all the crisis that happens, we can go through them even when challenges happen, even when adversity happen in our lives. We'll be able to go through that. Every day in my life, I get things that happen, and at the end of the day, I lie in bed. I'm like, I don't even know how I did that. How did I even lie in bed and able to sleep peacefully? So I mean, we just gotta go to birth. Nothing exists without motherhood, and then we have to do all the beauty. I always say life is a crazy, beautiful dance. We have to do all that, and why would you be oppressed? You don't oppress people that don't have power. And this is what, every time I get oppressed or people try to attack me or any kind of thing, which I don't really get, it doesn't happen as much, to be honest. I always go like, if you do that to me, I know there's something about me that threaten you, or that I don't go like, oh, you don't like me. I don't even care about that, because I'm not here for you to like me, I like myself. But as soon as I feel that somebody has something against me or something, I go like, oh, there's a power there. There's something there about me that you want to oppress. And I think when you look at oppression in any kind of shape or form, it's because, and the person that is being oppressed doesn't know that most of the time, because if they know, they can use that to their advantage.
This is a really big one, Ami, and there are so many threads. There are so many threads that I'm that I'm feeling into around this. You know, the simplicity is that when lives are made easier for women, everybody else's life becomes easier. Not just thriving, not just having an amazing time and living a good life, but everybody else's life becomes easier. It's like, be good to your women, be good to the girls, be good to, you know, any female individual in the world. And I don't want to cause segregation here of, I know that we're living in a time globally where there are so many people that identify as different things. I just want to have a simple conversation, a simple exchange around a person who has a vagina and a person who has a penis. I want to keep it very, very simple for the point of this conversation. And, you know, I look at you and I and the things that connect us. And we started having this conversation offline. The similarities, the parallel lives that we've lived in different ways and on different scales, and how we've both landed in this place and how we met where we met. And, you know, you talk about oppression, and I really want to get into this conversation around domestic violence and, you know, violence against women. I've just come out 8.5 years of separation, and the relationship has been tragic, and it's been incredibly violent, both emotionally and physically, and none of it is acceptable. You come from a country where this kind of stuff happens on a daily basis as well. And it's so fascinating to have a look at what women go through in a first world country in a domestic violence situation, and what women go through in a third world country in a domestic violence situation. So for you, being here in Australia and having had seen everything in Africa, do you think that there is a point of difference to resolve the same problem?
That is really, it's very complex, because if you think in the West, women have come so far, as we claim to be, and it is true. We've come so far, more independent, more, a lot of things, you know. Now, most of the house, if you look at Australia, the women are providing, they then do all the other stuff that they do, because that's part of nature of who they are. It's not really a role in a way. And then you go to places like, not speak about the continent of Africa, let me speak about Sierra Leone. You think about, okay, girls being violence against women, anything, then people will say here, oh, let's provide more for them. The women should have what women have here. You know what I mean? The women should have what we have. So that's always like a way for me. Like, I'm always thinking like, but yes, they should have education and everything. But is that what we've missing the point? Because you have women, you saw this, everybody saw this during COVID. There was more abuse than ever in Australia. You know, how many women are dying in Australia every single day? I think one woman, I don't want to quote that. But then you think of Africa, women don't have anything, but they go through similar. And I think we use the way we have evolved here, saying we want to be independent, get our own stuff, get our own things. And then that will not happen to us. But most of the time, what I've really realized, the most powerful women, the most outspoken women, are the ones that are being abused verbally and physically and emotionally. And I'm thinking like, and you get shocked when you see that and think about, then what happened? So that's not what we are asking. We're just saying, of course you should get safety for that woman and everything, but we're not asking why a woman who is all that is still subjected to that kind of thing, you know, and why in Africa, a woman who doesn't have all that is still subjected to that. And then you look at the men that are doing this thing. what happened? Because when you think of, you have a son, yeah, I have a son who is 10 next month. The bond between a woman, and Denzel Washington said this very, very well. The first love of a woman is their son. The first love of a son is their mother. What happened? And Dad, I was like, we're not even listening to those things. What happened when a child, a son and a mother have so much connection, and then they grow up to be like that? What happened? So we're not going back to really that part. How did that circle? How did that change? I think about it all the time when I have my kids, because my kids, everybody talk about them so beautifully. And I'm thinking, like, I'm very cautious about when does this change happen? When does this conversation happen? So I'm really mindful of that, because that's when the change happens. Because we're so close, we're so nurturing, we're so loving. And I'm not going to take that for granted and be like, oh, he's all good, because I don't want 20 years to come and somebody said, your son hit me.
There you go. And there it is.
And I've never been hit. That doesn't hit me. And we don't raise our voice. And it's not like we don't argue perfect. No. But I don't allow that, because I was not raised by that. But then still, something can happen. There's a chance something would happen. So that's what I'm more conscious about. But then I think what the West have done with Africa, the crimes that are committed in the West, I'll tell you, they're not committed in Africa. Like, seriously. But the way we interpret African crimes and bad habit or anything, it's that superiority. But they do that's even more bad, While if you look at this in Africa, if a man is hitting a woman or even want to kill a woman, he's going to think that her whole village is going to come for him. Yeah, you have a system, which is nice and good, important. Here you have a system that go like, you got to go to court, you got to go this, you got to go. Africa, you get the consequences right away. So, but I remember when I was in Sierra Leone in 2016, I went with someone, an Australian person in Sierra Leone. And then a nurse was telling a story of how she got robbed in the house and everything, not touch anything, they stole some of her things. And I could see this Australian person, how her voice changed. Oh my gosh, that's so dangerous and everything. And I knew this story was going to be a coffee table in story when she comes back. Honestly, I knew this. So by the time we get to London, and she started telling this story. Meanwhile, I think in Perth, a man has killed the children, the mother-in-law, and the wife. And I saw her in London having lunch with someone. We have a meeting, and she was telling this story. And I had to say, do you see what you're doing? And she goes, what? A crime that are committed in Australia, this developed and all civilized, that will never happen. I would say even never, 99.9%, a man would kill mother-in-law, mother, child. You don't hear that. I'm not saying crime doesn't happen, but the extent of how we see African crime and we see, and we see the Western crime is not the same. But I tell you, a man would think twice. Even if they're abusing a woman, they would think twice to extend for a whole village to come for that person, for that man. So again, it's really, we're in this balance of where we have evolved and we think we're better and civilized, because we have. I'm not denying that. And then where we think that, because we've got this and got so much, but then there's more abuse, if you think about it, more than ever. And while Africa most women don't have nothing, they're just home and stuff, and they've been abused. So, but we sell that way more, So it's very complex.
Perception. It's always about the perception, of how people are looking at things. It's what lens are you looking at it through. I have a question that I want to ask, but before we go there, just in listening to you speak, it really hit me, because as you know, I'm a mother of a 15-year-old boy. So the question to ask is, where do things go wrong? Where do things go wrong that have, and once again, I will be very clear on this, we are talking about a specific relationship between men and women where men abuse women. This is the subject at hand. We're not going off into a spiral of all of the other conversations. There are many threads that we can have, and I know that the audience will be listening in, thinking about all of the different possibilities. We're keeping it simple and straight for the purposes of this conversation. And that is, men who abuse women have not been taken through their rite of passage from a young boy into a man. That's often where the error occurs. There is a biological shift that happens within boys, and I am by no means an expert on the man. I am by no means an expert on teenagers. I can only speak from an assessment that I'm making on the spot here and my own current experience of what I'm going through. And that is that moment when a boy transitions through to a man, and he has got all of the testosterone that is moving through him, and he's finding his place in the world, he's finding his place at school, he's deciding who he is, he's confused about who he is. He's not a boy anymore, he's not quite a man, he's in this kind of this flux state. It's at that point, if we do not back our boys in their transition into manhood, and we allow the confusion and the possible huge bursts of energy that come through as young teenagers to be accepted as women, this is where the problem begins. I've just invited my son to move out with his father. That happened at the end of May last year. And this happened because our dynamic got to a point where the level of respect that I stand for was not in existence in my home. And I got to a point where I said, I will not tolerate you speaking to me like this, you showing up like this, you behaving like this. You need a man in your life to take you through your journey of what this is. And that broke my heart as a mother. Of course, it shattered me into 1,000 pieces. But I really feel that this is the point where things go wrong. So in Sierra Leone specifically, what is the traditional rite of passage pathway? What is the ceremony for the community to hold our boys in beautiful, powerful ways that transition them into manhood, to remind them of respect for a woman, respect for the mothers?
Oh, I feel like in Sierra Leone, my experience is different because I was raised by my father. But what I'm experiencing in Sierra Leone, I feel like all that is laid on the mother, the woman. I feel like that's where the missed gap happens. While in the West, you need the two-parent and to co-parent and everything. In Sierra Leone, the man goes out to get henchmen for the family. So the mother's job or the woman's job is to look after the household and the children. So if the child is not used to seeing the two-parent and not hearing the two-parent voice, there is also that kind of disconnect there. There's that kind of disconnect. So then the woman is running around doing many things, and because education around how to treat a woman, and they've not seen also so much how the father treat the mother, so they've not seen example of things. But also the mother probably will raise that child, the son or the daughter, as that motherly figure, but the father, the piece of it is missing. Sort of seen that in many when you think of, even for example, the African American history. What happened was, what was done to break the African spirit was to imprison the fathers. You know, that's what brought the whole, I believe, because the two union can really able to hold a child and a home. And no one ever promised the baby call or any kind of way that marriage was ever going to be like a smooth or anything. I think the first thing they tell you that realistically, romance is going to be disappeared, and then challenges are going to come. So nobody goes in and go like, maybe these days, but I even think realistically. People go like, I'm going to get married and going to feel like, oh, all in love and everything. Social media, of course, is painting something different, but we all know when the camera is turned off, there's something, So I think the union between a man and a woman is what will hold and what will guide. Whether the parents are together or not, if two people can come together and go like, you and me are one unit when it comes to this family, this boy or this child, I feel there's a lot of chances the child will lose their way, but they will come back home. They will come back to what you've raised them to be. I was raised by my father, but not my mother. But I saw how he communicates, and I talk about that in my book, how he speaks to women, how he treat them. So by then, I know, even my mom these days still think that he's married to my father because the way he respected women. And my mother, and I only get to hear, and my mother gave that same respect that to the fact that even what happened between their marriage, she didn't tell me until when my book, I was like, I want you to tell me, because there is nothing that you're going to do or you're going to say about my father that's going to make me love him less. I love this man. And that I gave her that permission, but for her protecting me was not to tell. So they can hold that unit for me. Together. And I feel like that's the missing part in Africa, because the man is out bringing hens meat, and when they come, they tire, they everything. So it's really not there. I think that's the miss page. And that doesn't mean that people have to be together. But if you say, despite our differences, when it comes to this child, you and I, if you say no cook, the child have to know that they can't even go behind the mom's back, or they know that is the same language,
No
and
Coca-Cola.
No Coca-Cola, yeah. No Coca-Cola, yeah. No Coca-Cola, yeah. No Coke, no Coca-Cola, or no going out. All I think that unit is very, very important. It is so crucial, that presence of being there. I think it's really important. I grew up differently, as I said, with a single father, but I think dad has molded me the way my dad talked about my mom and the way my mom talked about my dad. That has kept me together. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can really resonate with that. We've got similarities in this way of our stories. We were both brought up by our fathers, and, our mothers weren't around, and my father has never said a bad word about my mother. And my mother is psycho. Absolutely psycho. I don't even have a relationship with her. As you know, I haven't seen her for 11 years. She pushes and pulls and pushes and pulls, and you can't trust the woman. My father didn't have a great time with her at all. Yet he will just very quietly say, she is your mother, and I don't have anything to say about her. And it really frustrated me, because I wanted to hear more of the stories of what had happened, and he just refused. And, seeing the way that men treat women, seeing the way that our fathers treat women, have a huge influence on our children. So, what I'm hearing from you and your viewpoints is the thing that binds us. It's the thing that keeps on bringing us back together. And that is that it's about harmony.
Yeah.
It's about the opposite energies working with one another. We're not in competition in any way. Not women against women, not men against men, not men against women, not women against men. We're all just here to work together and to be in the strengths of one another. So I know that your mission in Sierra Leone, and, actually I'll just get you to share, Ami, what is your mission for Sierra Leone? What is your big vision? What are you here committed to, devoted to transforming in your home country?
Well, my mission is really plain and simple, is to end infant maternal mortality. When I started this journey, I'm like, I want to reduce it. And I think about, no, I don't want to reduce it. I want to end it. And when I say I mean we all, because that is something that should never happen. And I say this all the time. Sadly, war, as we live now, what we're seeing every day, it's never going to end. It's never going to end. It's been a system, and I'll say that boldly, that has been made by corruption to continue probably to make money or to do something and to abuse the other countries. But childbirth, to where we've come from 50 years ago in Australia, 100 years ago, how we reduced, everybody used to do traditional birthing, not just in Africa, everywhere. Everybody that came into this world from the beginning of time was traditional birthing, but we've evolved. But what we at the West have to really recognize that we can't evolve and leave others behind. I think that's what again, that idea of that's not my problem. I think we should be smart enough to know that whatever is happening in Russia, whatever is happening in Africa, it will come close to the door, because this world is a circle. It is a circle. We are connected, whether we want to agree, we want to deny that we are connected. We know we are connected, because at the end of the day, we all came through the same way. It doesn't matter what you have, you're going back down the same way. So we are all that human race. And the moment we realize that, then I will know that my sister in New Zealand problem is my problem, and then empathy comes in, and then you look, how can I be part of that change? But what we've done is, especially in Australia is a beautiful country, but one thing that we've really immune to, even when I talk to people up to now, is that, but there's so many problems in Australia, why should I do something for Africa? But then they don't even realize most of the bloody resource they have is coming from Africa. It's like, wow, you can use that, and then they don't even, and they don't want to know. And it's not that they don't know. I believe they know deep down all this research. They don't question, how do we get our mobile phone? How do we get the diamonds that we wear? They don't want to know. How do we get certain things? Because if you know, really, it's coming from, and that will make you care. So I think for me,
will it is the question.
Yes, yes.
You understand the supply chain, even when if you really look at the supply chain of everything that people have in their lives, if we had to do a checklist and an assessment of everything that we've got in our homes, of everything that we eat, of everything that we wear, and really do like a fine-tuned assessment of the supply chain of every single item, where would people sit? Where would people land? Knowing, I even joked about it the other day. I was wearing a pair of shorts that for sure have not been ethically made. They cost $11. And I was like, for sure this has been made in China by a 5-year-old child. I've got one pair of those shorts out of everything else in my home that I'm conscious about. There's a plastic bag and there's one pair of shorts. It depends on what your level of ethics is. However, listening to you, Ami, at the end of the day, when people say there are so many problems in Australia, why should we care about Africa? And then you remind them of the fact, the truth is, it all comes down to capacity, which is where this conversation started. It's about the capacity that you have as a human being, of what you're committed to transforming, of what you're committed to contributing to. It's the spirit inside of us that I was in tears yesterday having a conversation with my ex-husband. There's stuff that we're working through with our son at the moment, and my relationship with him. And I just said to him, I said, you took motherhood away from me because you didn't create a safe environment for me. You abused me for 7 years straight. You didn't create a safe environment for me to be the mother that I desired to be. Yet still, the spirit in me was so much stronger, and it doesn't ever, nothing that happens on a human level stops me from moving forward. And you're the same.
Mm.
You know, everything that you've been through in your life, and you can read more about Aminata's story in her book, Rising Heart. She was one of the first refugees to come to Australia 23 years ago and has been an ambassador for UNHCR, amongst many other incredible things that you've done in your life, Ami. But would you agree that it is the spirit inside of us that is just so incredibly alive and strong, and it doesn't matter what goes on in our lives, we're just drawn. It's like this force comes over us to go and get the thing done.
Oh no, I definitely agree. I always wanted to be a mother, and I actually I talked about that in my book. I actually I knew that once I become a mother, I'll find my calling. I'll find something, whether you call it calling, but my purpose to be in this life, because I knew that I wanted to serve. And I knew I was serving people in my smile, in my kindness, in my time. That's serving. And serving doesn't have to be, I have to go volunteer. But I knew once I become a mother, I would find that purpose. And I also wanted to do something back home. I wanted to give back home. And I wanted to do something that fulfills, that brings me joy, because I believe when we give, we have to have joy to do that. And then that happened with Sarafina. When Sarafina was born, my daughter, in 2012, which is how the foundation, she's a catalyst of how the foundation started. And I all of a sudden, and when I was pregnant with Sarafina, I was doing a theater production that was very heavy. It's called the Bochum Hills African Ladies Troupe. And I was telling my story for the very first time, so reliving everything. And I was pregnant the moment we start doing the showcase and everything. And I had never felt that strong. I was so strong. And through the theater production for 4 years, I gave birth to my other child, Matisse. I was like a warrior. I was always on time. I'm never late. I'm always showing up. And people audience actually thought my pregnancy was a costume. But the moment I was not pregnant, when we did the show in London at the Opera House, I collapsed. I started so my baby were holding me to tell story of women, for women that have gone through what I've gone through. And I remember that's when I said, I don't want to do the show anymore. And I stopped. But then again, I went and take on this challenge of setting up a foundation. I'm thinking which if I knew in real life, they gave me the book, this is what you're going to do, I would not have done it. I wouldn't, and I don't back down on things, but it's so complex to build something in Africa as a Black woman that you don't have anybody to mirror to. All you have is big organization that they will not even want you to come close when you're thinking you want to set up a charity. They're thinking that realistically, are you crazy? And it's true, are you crazy? But then they're thinking you don't have a qualification, you don't have this, you don't have that, you don't have all that. So I didn't have anybody that looked like me, represents me, that is doing what I'm doing. So, but it ended up happening. It became what it is today. And just because I had this strength every day, I'll cry. Sometimes I'll cry. And my kids were so little in the car. I'll pick them up from childcare. I'll go like, Mama, I have a bad day today. Or this person said this and did it. And I'll explain to my kids. Also, I explain to my kid the bad and stuff. And I'll cry. I'll cry in front of my kids. Because my dad was a beautiful crier. My dad would cry like a woman. So I let my children see all of that, because people see the joy all the time. I get cry, I get pissed off. Oh, people don't see that part of me. When I get mad and people go like, oh, like I had somebody that said to me, wow, I didn't know that you were masculine. I'm like, because they've been used to see me all the time smiling. I'm like, oh, when I get mad, you forget Michelle Obama or all that. It's like double that too. So I let them see all the rawness of me. But I think the foundation was what started, and I've just kept going. And it doesn't exhaust me. Being a mother, actually, and other women, I understand, we all have different kind of energy. For me, when I became a mother, I always speak about myself specifically. I have this energy, this warrior. I've never wanted to live more long, like live so much with joy. I love celebrating. When you hear somebody laughing in a restaurant, just turn, it's me. Everything that I do, I went from being, I never thought I was tamed, but I feel like I went from tame to really untamed. If you ever come close to me to just want to arrange me, you will fly the other side, honestly. So they really challenge me, and I believe kids make you see the real who you are, because I never thought I would get angry the way I get angry when I have kids. So I get mad at them and I look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, oh damn it, is that me? Because I can't recognize my face.
The beast.
But then
I call it
yeah,
the
the beast in me, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, everything just come out. And then the love is there, and then I pour the love, I can't even express it. So it's all in the beauty, but I just, dancing with life is what I live for. And I'm saying this all the time. When I go down 6 feet, it's gonna be a party. Like seriously. So,
Absolutely.
but again, that's me. I didn't go through a lot of things that people have gone through, but I feel like motherhood really birthed something in me. And if you look at how a baby come out of a woman, how can we let anything challenge us? That's even like a freaking miracle all the time. Every time I go to Sierra Leone, I'm at the hospital and women are giving birth, I'm like, did I do that? You know, that's all we have to look at. And if you haven't given birth, but just look at the things that you do on your daily basis, the things that you think about. Not all creature God created do that. Only women can do that. And that doesn't mean we are anything. Again, it's not a comparison. But when we get to appreciate that and find that and hold that and nurture that, then you can do anything that you want to do. But everything that you want to do in this life, I think that's the mistake. It's not about just you being making you happy. Everything that we do, it's serving others. And I think we mix that up. That's something that we confuse. Oh, I want to be happy. If you're not serving others, humanity,
you're never going to be happy.
You're going to be happy. Forget it. I don't care what you say and stuff. You go see a yoga teacher, whatever. And if you don't find that peace, if you can't go to, I always say, people go like, I'm going to do yoga. I can't even do yoga. Put music for me. I'm good. But I'm going to go do yoga to do peace. Do yoga, but you can't find peace in yoga. You're peace.
Yeah.
You are peace. And then whatever you do, whether it's, I don't care what you do in this world, you're serving the universe, you're serving humanity. The moment you recognize that, you change the way you do it.
Absolutely.
You change the way you do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, even more than happiness, we talk about the joy, right? You and I have this, you know, we've got this insatiable joy that we walk around with, and it doesn't matter what's going on, it doesn't matter how sad we are, how upset we are, it doesn't matter whether our children have activated the beast inside of us momentarily, we've still got this joy, you know. And the reason I believe why we have so much joy is because we are in such service to others. We are in such service, not just to our families, but to our communities, to extended communities, to global communities, you know. And this is why there's the combination of motherhood, as you say, that is the catalyst for do something bigger in life. And then it's the thing that holds us and reminds us to do even better, because we're leading by example. And then, of course, there is this be the mother to humanity, be the mother to the community, because that is what's going to enable you to access your joy. So that brings us round to the next project that you and I are partnering on. So the Aminata Maternal Foundation is the foundation of my choice that I contribute to. And as I'd shared,
for years,
with a few pauses in between and a few reductions and increases in between.
Come back. You always come back.
I always swing around in different ways. And this time round, we're doing some exponential growth stuff. So Amy and I, when we started strategizing on the foundation, it was literally, there was butcher's paper all over my kitchen floor and my lounge floor, and this is how things began. And just watching it grow over 9 years to what it is now is just so amazing. So now it's time for next level exponential growth. And what I've decided to do is, Amy runs this challenge on an annual basis. It's been running for 4 years now, and it was started by university students, and it's called the AMF Walking Challenge. It happens from the 30th of October until the 11th of November.
Yes.
And it is a walk for Zainab challenge.
Yeah.
And we'll share a bit on Zainab, and I'll get you to do that, Ami. And the reason why we do this challenge is because everything that any individual can understand is through experience. We can tell you stories about how things are not working. We can get you excited through our words and through our expression and through our joy, to get you to contribute to something that is important to Ami and I. But for me, you know, in my work as a leadership mentor and a business growth advisor, you will often hear me say, it is in the experience that the expansion occurs. It is only when you actually embody an experience, you actually do a thing, you take your knowledge and you apply it, is when you understand things. And so this AMF Walking Challenge drops you into a feeling state and has you understanding what a woman might need to go through in Sierra Leone in order to go from her house to a place of safety to be able to birth her child if she needs to be in a hospital and she needs to have extra support. A woman in Sierra Leone this woman specifically, Zainab, had to walk 109 kilometers to be able to get to a place of safety and have the support that she needed in a hospital to birth her baby. Her baby died. They didn't get her there on time. And I'll get you to tell the story, Ami, in a second. And that is what this walking challenge is about. It's about walking for 14 days, 6 kilometers a day, to give us an understanding of what a woman needs to do in Sierra Leone. Yeah. We could tell you about it. We could tell you all of the kilometers, but we're going to get you to do it. And we're going to get you to do it in your community, with your friends. We're going to get you all to be in the experience and awaken you more to what's going on in other places. And this is about capacity. Yeah. So before we go into Zainab's story, I am offering one woman a scholarship inside of Muse, which is my Mistress Mind. It's an all-access pass, an all-access Mistress Mind pass that gives you access to all of the content that I've created over the past 5 years of business and over the past 23 years in leadership. All the resources inside of Muse. Muse is about being the creator of your own life and being inspiration for other people to catalyze change. Muse, all of the work inside of Muse is what's enabled me to support Aminata to build and grow her not-for-profit, has supported her to raise 1.5 million, has supported hundreds of women to build and grow their businesses from 0 to multi-7 figures. You step inside Muse, you get everything that you need to either grow your business to 6 figures, to 7 figures, to multi-7 figures, and sustain it through the leadership flow state. I stand for the feminine leadership flow state, and you can learn more about that on my website, on various different places. At Lee Jane Woodgate, search me anywhere. You'll learn about what the feminine leadership flow state is. You have to work for it though. This scholarship is not just going to be handed to you, because you're going to get me for free. I will be answering all of your questions for 12 months for free. However, there is work that is required. I only work with people who are committed to exponential growth. I only work with people who are committed to growing their capacity to be able to live good lives and be in service to others. So I'm not just handing over the scholarship by you putting in a form and pitching to me why you're the greatest person for this. I am inviting you to stretch yourself. And that stretch is you raising 4,400 Australian dollars, which is the cost, the investment currently. It's going up every month until the end of the year. It is the investment to be able to step into Muse in a self-paced way and receive Q&A support from me. So what does that mean? That means you either need to have a conversation with 88 people and invite them to contribute $50 to this walking challenge, or 44 people at 100, or 22 people at 200, or 11 people at $400. So if you want to work with me, you're a person that is willing to put yourself aside. You are willing to get out of your own way to be able to make an ask, have a conversation, build the capacity in yourself to do what's required. Not only are you invited to raise the $4,400, you're invited to raise the $4,400 by inviting your community to walk with you, so that you can be in the embodied experience of what it is like for a woman in Africa to find a place of safety. So this is a stretch. It will be a massive stretch for some people. So that's for one scholarship. Now, what I'm doing is, in total, I'm raising $23,000. 23 is my number. It is my life's work. My gene key is 23, and that is quintessence. I'm here to enable you to become the purest version of yourself. 23 is the number of years that Aminata has been in Australia. 23 is the date that I started my business in May. And most importantly, the 23rd of May is the anniversary of my parents. And that is my stepmother and my father. So this is why I've picked the number 23. $23,000 to raise in 2 weeks is a dream. It's a wildly dreamy number. I'm not interested in setting something that I know I know how I'm going to do it. I have no idea how I'm going to raise this cash. All I know is that I've set this wildly dreamy dream, and I'm catalyzing community, and I'm getting people involved, and I'm going to walk every day from the 30th of October until the 11th of November, and I'm going to tell Zainab's story, and I'm going to get people involved, and I'm going to activate a whole bunch of people on the Central Coast, and there will be a spread about it in our local newspaper as well. So I'll share that with you when it comes through. So over to you, Ami, of Zainab's story to give us a hit of inspiration and really drop us into our hearts.
Yeah, thank you so much, and deeply full of gratitude for everything that you've always done and continue to do. Really, thank you. Zainab's story is a story that I've just come to realize about 2 years ago. I had a scholarship with McKinsey, and then they asked us to talk about our why. What is our why for doing what we do? And normally I always think that Seraphina, my daughter, was the reason why. I didn't really divide the catalyst and the why. So, and I remember standing in front of everyone, and Zainab came to my attention. And I met Zainab 2016 when SBS did a documentary on me called Daughter of Sierra Leone. And Zainab was one of the patients that we met that had fistula. Now, for some of you who will not know about fistula, because it doesn't happen in Australia at all, it's when a woman is in labor for a long period of time, sometimes 3 to 12 days, and the baby has been pushing to come out, and because they've been pounding, between the birth canal and the vagina, they've broken. There's a hole that have happened in the vagina, and then the baby would die. Unfortunately, would die in. And what happened is, because when the baby died, because they're not alive, they become really small, and they will birth naturally, and that woman has been left with a hole, meaning that they will continuously urinate on themselves. And then, of course, that will bring a strong sense of smell, and they will be sent to the bush or isolated or thrown away because of the smell. So that's what Zainab had. Zainab is a woman that was 37 years old. She was pregnant and gone into labor, and it took 3 days for the village to raise money to get a motorbike, for the motorbike to go get an ambulance while she's in labor for 3 days. So by the time the ambulance come, the baby had died, and she had formed fistula, and she's been living outside the house in a small place where the husband doesn't come to see her. Nobody comes to see her because she smells. And now, if you get to know my story, a lot of things have happened to me, horrible things have happened to me during the war in Sierra Leone. But one thing that you will also know about me, the dignity or being ashamed is something that I don't relate to at all. But when I met Zainab, I came to really find out the definition of dignity, what it meant. It was the first time I saw a person, mind you, I've seen war, I've seen death, I've seen starvation. That doesn't take a person's dignity away. But when a human being feels so less than, that is so small, even though they're lying there. And Zainab was lying on this bed in the hospital on top of a plastic because she's leaking. And she was lying there. And there's a video, Lee, I hope you share it. It's just a 3-minute video SBS did. And she was just lying there. And she was, as she's telling me her story, and she's crying, but her tears, her crying was so gentle and soft and hurtful. I could feel her brokenness. And she said, my kids do not eat my food because I smell. Oh, that made me feel so small and so helpless. I could feel her brokenness. And then her husband doesn't see her. Nobody comes to see her because she smells. Not because they don't love her, because of the way how much she smells. And then we witnessed Zainab's surgery just a few minutes after that. In 45 minutes, her dignity was restored by the women of Sierra Leone with the music in the theater, with laughing and dancing. We were so serious. I was so serious. This is going to be a serious case. And the cameraman was there, the SBS journalist, and everybody was singing and putting music on while they restored this woman's dignity in 45 minutes. Like if you don't believe in miracle, that's miracle happening there. And these women are also being trained by us doctors from the Western world. So when you think of African people not capable, please, if there's anything you have to delete in your mind, if you watch this video or listen to this, don't let that illusion fool you. Because if nurses and doctors have been trained by people in the West who have studied for 20-something years, can go and train women in Sierra Leone to do a surgery like that complex, and do it with music. When have you seen a music play in the theater here?
Yeah, we see it when we watch Grey's Anatomy.
Yes, and that has happened in real life. And then a surgery being done, and then 3 days later I was walking around the hospital, and then somebody called my name, and the name Aminata is very popular. I'm telling you, every like 2 women is called Aminata. And I went to closely, and then she said to me, I did not recognize her. This is no exaggeration at all. She said, it's Zainab. Because her smile was all the way to her ears. Like she smiled so beautifully. I didn't even think she had such smile. And then she just smiled. She didn't even say too much. She didn't ask for nothing. And I remember turning to my 2 colleagues who were Australian. I said, if this is the only woman that I've been part of, I'm happy. I was content. But then through contentment, it's where joy and energy and strength and courage is found. Because I came back and then have all this energy and doing the work that I'm doing with challenges, with so much challenges. And then 3 years after, then I get to go like, oh my gosh, Zainab is my why. She was the reason, without me not even realizing it, she is the reason why I came back and go like, I can do more without even putting a word to it, and just doing the doing. So this year, I know Lee, you asked me a question yesterday on text, why are we not working 109K? I live in the Western world. I like to be realistic. Let's just get that straight. I like to be realistic.
Not to put the Western woman down, but I'm
in it.
Like,
I'm in it.
Going to be real with you.
I'm gonna be realistic. Yes, and as you say, capacity and all that. I'm being realistic, and I'm saying that. How about we do 2 weeks of 6K, which everybody's doing anyway, and then be an advocate. Don't just do the work. Don't be the one person that do it. You're asking for fun. You're not putting money in. You can put your own money in, but you're asking, you're telling the story. So I made this thing where I go tell Zainab's story in 1 minute, less than 1 minute. when you ask people for money. So this is an example way to ask. You say to a friend, I'm doing this work for a woman called Zainab in Sierra Leone. Go straight to the point. Who was in labor for 3 days? It took 3 days for the village to raise funds for her to go to a hospital, and her baby died. And she from fistula where she's urinating on herself. She would have had to work 109K. 109K. So I'm working in, yeah.
No, that was before. Yeah.
And then I'm walking on the shoes of Zainab. So I would like you to join me or sponsor me. Now tell me who will not give you $5 or $10 or $100. So that's, and then you send a link to your friend.
Or
$800, $2,000, and then to pay. Yes, and you can say, I want to pay for Zainab's surgery, for a woman like Zainab's surgery, which is about, you can make that target for 2,000 some hundred. If you want to pay for 2, you can say, I want to pay for 2. So that's about $5,000 because about 2,400. So you can put that
400 for one surgery.
Yes.
To bring a woman's dignity back from fistula.
Yes.
And just imagine this for a moment. You know, us women here in the Western world who have had babies growing inside of our bellies, we get to a certain age and then we start to have conversations about a dry vagina or incontinence. And you'll see women, often they'll have a good laugh and they'll all be standing there at a certain age where they've got their legs crossed over and they're all giggling so hard, and they'll say, stop making me laugh so much, I'm about to pee my pants, you know. Now we laugh about this stuff. You imagine, you know, I'm sure that every woman at some point has maybe sneezed a little bit too hard and felt a little bit of urine coming out of her vagina. I'm sure that at some point in your lives, you've experienced this. Imagine not even sneezing and just having urine pouring out of your body constantly. Now you can be horrified by the level of disgust, or you can really drop into yourself and imagine for a moment women that are going through this, and they are not only experiencing that, but they're also being isolated. They're being pushed away from their families. All it takes is 45 minutes in surgery and $2,500.
And you know,
as well as the doctors and nurses and midwives, of course. Yes.
And I think, you know what, we need to be horrified. That's what I think for me, the most shocking part for me in Australia is when I tell this story and the casual way, sadly, especially women just go like, oh,
that's so terrible.
We should be so horrified because we really focus on it does not happen here. It does not happen. So
that's not true, because you know what our friend experienced.
Yes, but the
cases are minimal.
The minimum, but the difference with that friend is you can be in labor for 3 days. The reason why women are having fistula is because they're in labor for that long, or the pelvis is small when they're young people, where they should do cesarean. That is not the cause of that person having what she had. You know what I mean? So it's so, I think for me, that's been the most shocking reaction for me, because I go to every place, every women think that, women are the future, we need to support women with sisterhood. Then I realized that, okay, sisterhood, even for me as a Black woman, I understand that when it comes to the community, a sisterhood is that community. It doesn't so much, I can be included somehow, but not really when I'm in that challenge. So our sisterhood doesn't expand. It's probably in our suburb, in our area. So it's just a box. We're just a box of people. So for me, I want people to be horrified. I want them want to throw up and get mad, because that's where our frustration and our anger for others, dehumanization, that's where our power lies on. Because we should be mad about these things. We should be angry about this. This is not abuse. This is nothing. This is just a woman birthing into this world. The population of Sierra Leone is the same population of New South Wales. So don't give me the quote, why is African having so much baby, you know? So this is really something that can be fixed, that can be done. We can do something about it. If somebody like me, when I meet somebody like me, I don't mean that in the low level, but I'm thinking that somebody who just had a baby, who doesn't qualify, who's not a midwife, I have no interest in being a midwife, and say, hold on, I'm a Black Australian woman who is privileged, that had 7 doctors in the room to make sure my daughter survived and go on and do what I do. Capacity, honestly, is an excuse we make. Because who put the capacity together? I did, you know. I put the business together. I put the thing together. It's an excuse. And when I said respectfully that we all have things that we want to do. We all have things that we're doing. I understand that. But we can find a way, other ways. There's so many other ways that if you're not able to do this, you can take it somewhere else. You can say, let me call my local paper. Let me call someone. You don't necessarily need to go like, oh, I don't want you to overcrowd your business. But we all have a way that we can do something. You can call your community, you can call your library, there's so many things, but we don't want to take the responsibility. So capacity for me is an excuse. And the time comes when I go like, I can't do that. Yes, I can. You should not. But nobody exists without a woman. That's it for me.
And we will always find a way if it's something important to us. So you build the capacity, you create, it is a priority, you choose it to be a priority. And my friend and I were having this conversation yesterday, and I'll use me as an example of how this all started. My whiteboard, when we spoke, the day before yesterday, and we were having a conversation about motherhood, and we were talking about, Amy was talking about her husband and her children, and I was talking about my ex-husband and my son and what we were going through. And of course, as we always do in our conversations of woman to woman, of what's happening in our lives, things swirl around to our work. It comes back to our life's work and what we're here for. And so anyway, she starts chatting about the walking challenge. And of course, like my whole entire body just goes, oh, fuck, I've got to do this. She hasn't made an invitation to me. She hasn't said, oh yeah, like come and do this thing. None of that's happening. It's just dropped immediately into my system. And I've gone, fuck, I've got to do this. I've got 9 things that are sitting on my whiteboard at the moment. I'm catalyzing some of the hugest projects of my life, of my business, of my entire existence. And I said to her, shit, I'm going to have to create space on the whiteboard to go and create a 10th project. And I was like, fuck, I'm going to have to rearrange things. I was like, for fuck's sakes, woman, do we have to do this every single time? We have a conversation, and then all of a sudden I'm adding an extra project and we're doing another thing. And for God's sake, I'm doing this and it's happening. And as I'm doing all of this with her, I'm like, okay, I'm going to chat to you later. This is what we're doing. We're going to have a live on Wednesday. It's going to happen at 9:30. How's that in your diary? Okay, great. I go off for about an hour. I crunch numbers, I work things out, and I decide what number I'm going to choose. And I choose the number 23,000 for the reasons that I've given you. And also because the number 23,000 can either salary 74 midwives, or it can give 2,300 women access to family planning education. And the reason why I've chosen that is because we've always got to go back to education. We have to go to the core of where the actual issues are. You don't know what you don't know. If you don't have the knowledge, if you don't have the wisdom, if you don't have the knowledge about where you can go and get support because you are suffering with domestic violence, if you don't know where you can go and get the support to empower yourself so that you can say no when you don't want to get involved in things, if you don't actually know, there are some women in Africa that actually don't even have an understanding of how you become pregnant. There are lots of teenage pregnancies. And as Ami says, there's huge amounts of complexity. My focus is ensuring that people are educated. I'm a leadership mentor. I'm a business growth advisor. Everything that I do is around education, and it is ensuring that women have jobs doing things that they're here to do. And I support the midwives of the world in all of the different ways. I work with soul-led, purpose-driven entrepreneurs who birth concepts and ideas into the world. And so this is why I've chosen the number. This is why I've chosen the work. And I'm sharing this with you because Aminata and I have profound capacity, and we also stretch ourselves to create more capacity. And we also are very clear on what our priorities are. So, you know, when Aminata says, yeah, capacity is a bit of an excuse, of course, you've got a threshold, right? You've got a threshold of what you can do, what you can't do, what you've got space for, how your lifestyle is set up. I have a friend of mine that we've been friends for a couple of months now. We speak like twice a day sometimes. We see one another most days. Over a period of eight weeks, we haven't seen one another, I think, for 4 days in all of that. We have capacity to text one another every day, these long ass text messages, to have conversations, to go for walks, to have dinners. People say I don't have space for my friends. No, it's not that you don't have space for your friends. You just haven't prioritized it. It's not that I don't have capacity to do this thing to contribute to somebody else's life. No, you've chosen not to prioritize it. When you prioritize it, joy is at the top of Aminata's priority list, as it is at the top of mine. And so we both know that at the core, the thing that fuels the most amount of joy is giving back without depleting ourselves. And so we fuel ourselves so that we can give more. We fuel more so we can give more. And so we are here today to invite you to come and play with us. Your ass is going to look super fucking hot because you're going to be walking every day for 6 kilometers if you're not already doing that. If you're already doing that, then it's easy. Then I invite you to start walking 12 kilometers and stretch yourselves a little bit more. You know, and this is something really important that I want to drop in for all of you. There is a difference between the catalyst and the why. And Ami shared this with you. Our catalyst, both for her and I, is our children. Her why is Zainab. My why is my mother. My mother didn't have the capacity to be a mother to me. And so that is why I do everything that I do in the world, to have the capacity to mother myself, to mother my son, and to give others all of the love and the nurture that they require in order to raise themselves up. So get clear on what your catalyst is. Get clear on what your why is. Get clear on what your story is. And this journey of walking for the Aminata Maternal Foundation, walking the project Walk for Zainab, this is going to be an experience. It is a training experience for you. This is why I've said that this is the way that you get the scholarship for Muse. It is a training experience for you to stretch yourselves, to expand your capacity. And I am on an exponential growth wave at the moment. As some of you know, I had an Instagram post going viral, which reached 176,000 views. My most viewed post before that was 1,700 views. That is an 11,000% growth. I am on an exponential growth wave. I'm here to help you increase your capacity. I'm here to help you make lots of money. I'm here to help you impact at the highest level possible and access the most amount of joy that you can possibly access. So this is the way that we are growing community and capacity and joy, and we're inviting you all to come and join us on the experience. The way in which you can do that, there is a link on my Instagram that you can go directly to. There will be links on my Facebook. There will be a link in my bio. There will be a link in the show notes when this is produced into a podcast episode. You just click, you pay, you walk. It's very, very simple. In it, the complexity is find your voice, tell stories, make invitations, get clear.
And then also, like the people that are gonna do it, and I'm urging everyone to that we hear this podcast, share it. Don't just do it for yourself. Share the story of Zainab, share the what about maternal health, share the story that Sierra Leone have the highest. It is the most dangerous place on earth for any woman to give birth. So I always think that in life we need to share. So when you take it to yourself beyond, and that it grows. So your giving has become way more than giving. So please, but it's something that I think it will fulfill you in our everyday life, especially us in Australia here. We go through things. And when you know you're thinking of others, somebody that you don't even know. I'm probably never going to see Zainab, but she's made an impact. And sometimes we plant a seed that we will never see the growth of. And that's how you got to take it. But everything that we do in life comes back to us back tenfold. It will come back. So please, please, please join us and let's make this happen.
And get healthy along the way, you know.
Yes,
And
get ready for Christmas.
come rain, come shine, you know, if it's raining and or if it's a little bit colder, or if there's a little bit of wind, this is the experience that you're here to be in, you know. As entrepreneurs in the world, if you are somebody also who wants to build a not-for-profit organization, that's not my gig, that's not what I do. I did that with Aminata, but I'm very much for profit. But if you're wanting to be in the space of soul-led, purpose-driven work, you are required to be able to weather the storms, weather the sun, weather the wind, weather the rain. And if you're somebody who's not able to get up every day for 2 weeks and go for a walk in whatever the wind is, you're not going to have the capacity to grow a soul-led, purpose-driven business. If you can't do something as simple as that, then go and get a job, because it's better that you've just got a job to go to. Because entrepreneurship or growing a not-for-profit organization that actually saves lives and creates huge amounts of impact requires you to have grit, resilience, build capacity over and over and over again, get yourself out of the way, and be able to hold a lot of energy. You know, so many people want to be wealthy, but they don't have the capacity to hold all of the energy that comes with the wealth. So many people want to be influential, but they want to hide underneath the radar, you know. And I spoke about this on my last podcast, that Taylor Swift, she knows that when she walks down to the grocery store, people are going to recognize her. So you've got to find where you want to be on the level of influence. Do you want to fly under the radar? Then be influential at a certain point. If you want to be someone who influences at a much higher level, you're going to be recognized at the grocery store. You know, you're dancing with the devil, and choose how you want to dance with the devil. If you want to do something on a smaller scale, then do it on a smaller scale. But you can't expect to be influential and create impact and not have everything else that comes with it. So I'm so excited for you to all join us. I love you so much, Ami. Thank you very much for catalyzing the next piece. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we close for the day?
Oh, I think what I would love to add, it's been such a wonderful and refreshing conversation. What a way to start by. Just, again, my prayers is always thank you. I want to thank you for always creating the space and always coming in a perfect time in my life again. But also I want to thank the people that are going to listen to this, that are going to hear this, that will like, okay, I might think about it. Sometimes we don't need to think about it, we just need to dive in things. Please, I encourage you all to join in and make this happen, because without the people, nothing happens. So you are as important, and we can do more important work and to end infant maternal mortality with your support. It's not something I can do by myself. I just kind of sit in the driver's seat, but without the passengers, it's just empty. So please jump on board. It's fun. It's going to be wonderful. You will not even know that it's happening. And then you feel good. We all feel good when we do something good. That's something that I've always accepted. So you feel really good.
I'm so excited. And the final day is on the 11th of November, and we're going to be walking from the Opera House. Is that right?
It's from the 11th of, it's on a Saturday, and the 11th of November we'll meet at the Opera House and walk all the way to Watson's Bay. And we encourage people to bring their swimmers, because people can eat, wine, enjoy, and then take the ferry to come. That's the best part. You take the ferry, you're not going to walk back. Okay, you take the ferry to over. It's such a beautiful day. We've got something that I wanted to mention. We've got 10 sunglasses from Ray-Ban. So Ray-Ban has given us 10 sunglasses that will be given to people who are raising more funds. And then we got the foundation hat, yellow hat with a slogan, Motherhood should mark a beginning and not the end. And then we got a French company giving us some sunscreen. I think it's called Alveil or something. Yeah. So we got some incentive that we'll be sending to, we'll be advertising for people who are doing the work. So we got 10 sunglasses. I know you might have a Ray-Ban glasses, but it's wonderful that they've contributed in sponsoring us.
It's so great when sponsors get involved.
Yeah.
What time is that happening on the Saturday?
We meet 8:30 and we start the journey by 9. And we get students. We have students coming. Every year we have like schools coming with their teachers and do the work. The first time we did it, we had about 200 people, but now we just make it like a small capacity, whoever can join. And yeah, we just have a good time at Watson's Bay place.
And beautiful. How long is that? So we leave at about 9 o'clock,
Yeah.
and that'll take us until about what time?
It takes us about 9 o'clock. So it takes about, it's about, off my head, it's about 14K.
Yeah.
But you're meeting different people. So we'll probably get to Watson's Bay around, we aim for 12 o'clock and having lunch there and
Just
swimming
in time
there.
for lunch.
Yeah, but we advise everybody, bring your swimmers because the weather is so beautiful all the time. And people go like, oh, I forgot my swimmers. So bring your swimmers and you can decide yes or not. And then you meet just the most wonderful bunch of people and we interact with people all the way as we walk. It's just so special.
And, the timing's really interesting as well because it's Remembrance Day too. So, there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy around. It's also the 11/11 portal. So yeah, if you're someone who wants to stretch your capacity, do it for yourself and do it for others. Come and join us. I'm going to be up here on the Central Coast. On some days I might be walking by myself. Other days I might be walking with others. Some days I might be walking in group. I don't know how this thing is going to turn out. All I know is that I'll be showing up. What is the top figure that we're wanting to get to in total? What is the goal financially this year?
The goal that this year we put a target for 65,000. I'm really hoping that we can get way more than that. When we did it 2021, we raised about 86,000.
Amazing.
Yeah. And you can get schools to get involved. So if anybody have children at high schools or even primary school students come and do the last day of the work at a school. As I said, if people can't do it, if you have children or you can get school to do this kind of work. It makes them think about teenage pregnancy or even a time when they can think of being grateful for their parent.
And that's the thing, I mean, just to seed ideas for people of how they can get involved. That's a really great way if you've got children and especially the young girls, they do want to contribute.
Yes.
And so, it's a really beautiful thing for a mother and a daughter to do together. It's a really beautiful thing for your daughters and their friends to do together, or have a conversation with the teacher or the principal to get them involved. There are many, many ways. And I think that the thing that hinders people the most, in business and in not-for-profit building, you need to be able to have a conversation. You need to be able to be an absolute king or queen at sales.
Yeah.
If you're not great at sales, if you're not great at making the ask, you're not going to move forward in business. I haven't got to a point of an almost $1 million business by not having the conversation. You need to have the conversations that matter and keep on practicing that and getting people involved.
And this is a great conversation because it's not about you're making it about others, which is what people love. Human loves that when you make things about others. So
it's so much easier to ask for someone else instead of asking for yourself.
It's
like, yes, I'm raising $22,000 over here, but we're doing it. We're doing it for either 74 midwives, or we're doing it for 2,300 women to receive higher education. You can go onto the Aminata Maternal Foundation website and have a look at all of the different ways that money contributes.
Yes.
So, it could be by buying a machine that supports in hospital. What are the different other ways that the dollars equate to a very specific, teenage pregnancies, like there's
pregnancy,
a lot of stuff.
fistula, there's so many stuff. Everything we're tax deductible, we fully tax deductible, register, everything is on our website. Like if you go to our website, you feel we are very transparent. All our financial record are out there and everything. So, yeah.
Amazing, Ami. So to close this, I would love for you to share, excuse me, I'd love for you to share with the audience what you believe connects you and I and has us in the strong bond for 9 years now, since the minute that we sat across from one another in a boardroom.
I believe what connects us, firstly, I believe it's our love for Africa. I do really believe that. I'm sure when you first saw me, you're like, oh, she's one of me,
people.
my people. And then I believe motherhood connect us. I believe our spirituality, for me, that I call God, it really connects us. And I believe our story of our parent connects us, but also I think how we really because sometimes I try not to use the word strength, because women, when we put the word strength and put the armor on it, and then that's when we get exhausted. We're very vulnerable to each other, and we speak. Really, we hold each other accountable for our what our integrity is, and I believe there are things that we disagree on, which I like being disagree with people, which here is not the same confrontational or anything. I like people disagreeing with me because I want to know their point of view. So I believe that's why most of the time our conversation went longer and deeper, because you actually go like, well, and I'm saying like, well, but there's a respect in the core of that, because I am not better or you are not better, but we're hearing each other. And I think that's something that I really admire and respect about you and people that have been in my life. I think that's why they've stayed longer in my life, because I just want people to disagree. I don't want it to say, I can't even stand the word amazing. I just want it to be, actually, I think something else, and I want to know why you think that way. And then I kind of carry that conversation with myself and not think that, oh, because of I know better. So I feel like that tied us a lot together. That kind of
Our curiosity,
our curiosity, yeah,
our joy. And I also, I really feel like one of the deepest connectors is our level of honesty.
yeah.
Like you and I are both straight shooters. We don't mince our words. You don't speak to me in a way where you're like, oh, this might hurt you. Or, like, can I have consent to share this thing with you? It's not like that. It's, we go in, we're having a conversation, and we get the conversation done, and we're super honest, and we can be quite brutal in our directness of what we're seeing, of what we're feeling, of what we're thinking. You're not here to hurt me. I'm not here to hurt you. We're here to be honest with one another. We're here to show one another what needs to be shown in order to continue to grow at the rapid rates that we do. And, for me, that's not a question of asking for consent every single time we have a conversation. That is a deep bond between you and I. The consent has already been given. The conversation has already been had about the agreement, rather, has already been put in place of, we're going to be direct with one another. We're going to be super honest with one another. We're going to love one another deeply. And we're going to ensure that every single conversation that we have with one another is going to expand us into our greatest capacity and get us done what we need to get done with huge amounts of love, of course.
Yes, and respect.
And respect.
Oh,
my love.
Thank you
11,
so much.
Oh,
yes, okay.
My darling. Perfection. Thank you so much to the audience for tuning in. We love you for joining us. We love you for getting interested. We love you for receiving the seed that has been planted. And we're so looking forward to more magic unfolding, and for really expanding the capacity of women who choose motherhood or don't choose motherhood to step into the greatest, most potent versions of themselves. And on the 30th of October, we're doing that in a way where you get to walk. So enjoy. We will.
That's all you gotta do. Walk, have coffee, do something.
Walk and chat and be in the weather. Links in the bio, links in the show notes, links all over the interwebs under Aminata Maternal Foundation and Lee Jen Woodgate. Hashtags are also shared there. So spread it far and wide, have the conversations. If motherhood matters to you, if domestic violence matters to you, if education on family planning matters to you, if birthing safely matters to you, then get involved. I hope that this conversation has touched your hearts and inspired you and excited you and motivated you to make bigger moves. We'll catch you on the next one.
Catch you on the next one. Thank you.
Ciao, my darling.
Bye.
Ciao, audience. Bye.